Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode on educational reforms. As usual, we have Arvinda Tanirbavi, our guest and expert on the show, and we will be continuing this series about how education has so many gaps, how the national education policy, which came as a suggestion or an answer to solve these issues, did not really address everything. So, a lot of things, and then Arvinda has some solutions and some great ideas to talk about. So, with that, I'll just hand it over to Arvinda to take forward another session on the gaps. Arvinda, the floor is yours.
Thanks again, Giri, for taking up time to record this sessions and involving seriously with the discussions and coming out with a lot of. I also got a lot of inputs from you before we talk about it. So the coming to the fifth episode. So I would like to. In the last four episodes, we started with the what is the current NEP about, and then we looked at some of the gaps. Three episodes we had on the gaps. Now we are continuing with a little more on the gaps. To actually, most of the things that we discuss on this episode might be already some points have come up, but I would like to highlight those, and then we'll close the gaps portion, and then we can look at the what is the takeaway that somebody should from these discussions, and how should be the NAP, what should it address, and then we finally we go more to the I would call it as actions that can be started at the different levels to change the mindset and change the whole system from the grassroots. So let me start the presentation. So we looked at the social science aspect in the previous episode,
I
and we'll
think,
be continuing with the
yeah. So we looked at a few things for people who are coming back after a gap in the episode. Just want to quickly summarize. We looked at three specific areas about how using language, especially mother tongue, second language, third language, has not been adopted properly. And we looked at other gaps like how technology is not being used in the right manner for solving these issues. And most recently, we talked about how social science is not being taught in the right manner. So, just a quick summary for people who might have forgotten. Sorry, Arvinda, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. It's a good summary. So I would like to continue some more gaps. So it is actually NEP 2020. I had mistakenly put as 2021. Basically 2021, 2020 and 2021, you can take it as that was the mistake in some of the slides in the beginning episodes, but that should not matter because we are already 4 5 years down the line. And as I am emphasizing in the previous episodes also, medium of instruction is one of the hurdles for the learning different topics in the current system as well as the old system, even in the new proposed system. So NEP is not able to break the myth around the medium of instructions, whether to learn in English medium or state language or mother tongue, etc. And I had elaborated in previous episode also, the language should not be a barrier for learning any subject, and how we should address that problem, and how the each subject has its own language. We talked about physics, like if you are able to, you should be able to learn physics in any language. Should not matter whether you learn in English or any other language, because physics is not in English. Physics has its own language. Like
But
that,
what
Kannada
about,
means.
sorry to interrupt, but what about words which are very specific to English? Something like gravity or mass, those kind of
See
things.
that we had actually addressed in many, even some several decades ago. See, when you translate from one language to another language, you will have some words taken as it is, or you find a relevant word meaningful to the local connotation or local culture or local language or local understanding. Because see, you don't need to change everything. Like, okay, we have to put everything in Kannada or Sanskrit or Tamil or something. So we should have an approach where we should be able to understand the concepts, whether you learn in gravity as in word gravity, or whether you call it as Gurutva Karshana Shakti in Kannada. So you should be able to understand the concept. It should not be because because we made everything to learn in English, people were started thinking like, oh, everything is in English, which itself is a wrong perception created in the society.
Agreed.
So what I was trying to say, so this medium of instruction should be, we should try to dilute this concept, and we should focus on making the concepts understanding more, and all these workarounds, learning like learns Kannada in Sanskrit, learn English in Kannada, all those things, that is for a very specific purpose, not for a general learning. So, and I didn't see any specific ideas with respect to this. So I had in previous episode also social science. I was talking about using an AI based technology. Even in the conclusion, I will add some more details into it. So if you are able to successfully use a very innovative technology with having a device into somebody's hands who can generate a content in his own language, then that language barrier, that medium of instruction will goes away. So social science can be learnt in any language. um, English anyway has to be learned in English. Sanskrit should be learnt in Sanskrit. Kannada should be learnt in Kannada. So there is no point of medium of instruction for 6 subjects or 4 subjects or all the subjects. So, and evaluation, if you are able to, from the content to the evaluation techniques, if you are able to find a very creative idea, this this definitely this problem will goes away. I can detail out the uh, if we can detail out the solutions in a different forum, but I'm sure the bigger, if we able to come up with a very good solution for this, using this philosophy and the idea, we should be able to solve this problem.
Right.
So
So you
language
talk about,
learning,
so somewhere there
yeah,
you're talking about there is no creative idea to break this myth. So
yes.
is it because we have not found any idea at all, or people are not being creative about it?
No, we have not come out of the idea of education means learning a subject in some language and then creating some exams to pass. So
Ah,
you come out, start at the grade 3 or grade 1 or grade LKG, and then come out at the 10th standard with learning those many subjects. So that framework is not broken. That philosophy is not broken. So obviously our ideas will not be very creative to solve such bigger problems, which is from decades we have accumulated in our mindsets, in our society, and in our policies and everywhere. So that's what I mean. Like simple example, like in the language learning, when we go about, everybody knows like learning language is talking, and learning is the best way to learn any language.
so you're basically saying that the medium or the language doesn't matter. So the policy should not focus on which language is used.
Yes. And
Okay.
they should give an ideas and solutions to break that myth. See, somebody for example, I was learning in Kannada medium in grade 1 to grade 7. When we came to 8th standard, it was a nightmare to write social science subjects in English. First of all, we are learning English from grade 8. 5th, 6th, 7th, we had words and some sentences, but actually writing a big paragraph of in English of a subject which is, it's very difficult to write it in English. In my language, in Kannada language, I can write 10 pages, sir, because my
Correct.
thinking, my growth, and everything has happened in Kannada. So that barrier should be broken, because history is not in English, science is not in English. People have misunderstood the concept like learning English means you have to learn everything in English. That is wrong. And other very important aspect, last time also I emphasized, if you say Indian history, if you don't know Sanskrit, that means you don't know Indian history. It's like learning Bhagavad Gita in Gujarati, or Gujarati is okay, at least learning in English, because Indian text has its own context, its own meanings. So you have to learn
Correct.
in that particular language.
So it's mostly lost in translation. Whenever somebody translates it to another language, something is definitely lost.
Lost, and it will be misinterpreted or misunderstanding, that is carried forward through the generations. That's why we have to, this is a very important myth that should have been broken in the policy, because if the policy itself doesn't understand this gravity of this problem, they will not try to solve it. They will go with the wind. They will always it's very easy to define, right?
I think to be fair to the policymakers, what they were trying to address is that since the bulk of today's employment is around, um, let's say, computers or information technology or something, where most of it was invented by the English in some way or other. So, if you take an example of C language was literally invented by those guys sitting in Bell Labs somewhere. So most of the documentation, the instructions, they are all in English. So I think NEP tried to make sure that people understand English better so that they have access to the all this latest knowledge. But in that process, we have lost touch with our roots, our Sanskrit, whatever historically, whatever knowledge we had, that is lost. Now we are only dependent on the English system. I mean, that's how I see it. So yeah,
Huh. But I would like to add certain points to it. For example, when I went to Finland, they have a Finnish C compiler. They have a word for compile, means it is mixing something. Compile means mixing something, right? They have a word for compiler in Finnish. That is the approach we should have taken long ago for the subjects we are talking about. But what I am trying to emphasize is this is beyond computers. See, it is beyond English because 1 crore government jobs are there. Agriculturists are there. There are so many skills are there. There are so many people who are rushing to learn English, which is not needed at all. In most of the fields, a Assami or a Punjabi or somebody coming to Bangalore, if he is working in a hotel or he is working in some other area, he will learn the language for necessity to do his business. If his English is required, he will learn that much English. That much enough for him. He doesn't need to read Shakespeare. Okay, you have to read Macbeth or all those things, and he'll struggle to read it. He has to go to coaching. He has to get marks, 35 marks. That is the stupidest idea that I feel. So our general education should not be focusing on English. It should be focusing more on building the skills. Language is a skill, yes. Person who wants to go into a field where he teaches English or where he works with English, for him English is a skill, not learning everything in English, which has created a lot of divide in the village and Bangalore cities,
correct. Yeah,
hi-fi schools, not hi-fi schools, residential schools, all these new domain schools, Jidum Krishnamurti school, all this new paradigm. There is a huge divide in the understanding of how to actually carry forward the education. So that is one of the things that I wanted to highlight for the policymakers, so that they should think in direction where I will give you ideas. If you want more detailed ideas, probably we have to sit together and then, or we have to write some more detailed analysis and then come forward. The second
right.
point I would like to highlight, we discussed about Bharatiyata, right, in the second episode or something. So what is the one key, what I understood from NEP and the various discussions in different forums, we have failed to understand the Gurukulas and modern schooling or modern aspiration, numeracy, literacy. We are trying to address one system to solve all the problems. So, and Gurukula means, as you also mentioned in the episode number 2 or somewhere, Gurukula means it is not always Takshashila or something. It is a guru's house. Any expertise, any skill or any carpentry or any guru who is expert in some subject, sculpture or art or any guru, shishyas, people who used to go to his house and then stay there or nearby his house, wherever their accommodation, learn that skill and come back.
Correct. So it is something
So
like the
multidisciplinary schools were also there. Now, multidisciplinary Gurukula was also there, but that purpose was very different. And not everybody used to go to that multidisciplinary Gurukula. So we need to understand, leave out the old baggage of Gurukula system as well as the modern, that whatever so-called macula system, and come up with a very innovative and modern idea so that it sustains for this society. It sustains for another 20 years, 30, 40 years and developing the society. That was my main contention with the NEP. So this coming up with this kind of a common medium, common syllabus, like the problem I told, like sitting in the west coast, you will be reading about Western Ghats. So this kind of anomalies are not solved in NEP right now.
so you're talking about autonomy for each zone. So they can have their own syllabus or region specific.
No, there is a very fundamental framework is there. For example, social science, there is a fundamental framework which drives a student, school, teachers, everybody. who can get the content from the framework, as well as they can generate content continuously. There can be like a social media kind of a content generation where you develop reels about history of your own locality, your own temple, or your own fort, or nearby your house or your village. So we should start growing organically from a bottom of approach. So the device or AI based technology will help you to learn, evaluate continuously, come up with ideas. So it will be a continuous process. The teacher will also develop, student will also develop, school will also develop, universities. So it should continuously, like grade 1, okay, assume grade 4 we start social science. A student coming in grade 4 will be start generating a content in his own way. It could be a text, it could be video, it could be a voice, it could be a drama, it could be a story, it could be anything related to his own civics, his own geography, his own history. But the supporting content is shown by the AI based content generator. For example, if my coordinate is Nagarbavi, Bangalore, that Nagarbavi, Bangalore coordinate will have some content generated by the framework, like the syllabus generators or somebody who approves the syllabus could be keep adding the content to Nagarbavi with this coordinate or 1 kilometer radius.
But the exams and the grading system also will have to change based on the content.
It totally should change. Without changing the present approach of writing 10 sentences, write 10 sentences about Akbar, I write 10 sentences about Shivaji, it has no value. People will lose interest, 99% people will lose interest, and we lose the actual meaning of why do we need to learn social science. So basically, so medium of instruction, then Gurukula system and NEP has to address this. And they talk about um, like creative methods of teaching. And but if you look at the schools around, there are schools in 1800 square feet, 2400 square feet. How do you make them to come out of the mindset of this rotting like learning exam centric approaches? That also has not gone through, because our schools are so diverse. Like some schools have acres of land, some schools have only 1800 square feet, there where the main road itself is there. Then how do you do the physical education for them? And cities have a very different way, villages have a different problem. So all these things has not looked into when we look at the current way of coming up with a framework and learning methodology and learning throwing of like holistic approach of Gurukula, olden system, Bharati. We talk about so many jargons, but how does it reach all these kinds of schools? That is not clear in the policy.
Correct. So I'll take this moment to kind of break this episode into a 20-minute chunk. If you remember, we were going with the spirit
Yeah.
of keeping episodes
Yeah.
in a 20-minute window. So maybe in the next episode we can look at the other remaining gaps and start going into solution mode. So with that, do you want to
What is that?
summarize
Does
quickly on? Do you want to summarize quickly on this particular
Or shall
episode?
we finish these two gaps also? Another 5 minutes?
Sure, we can do that. Yeah. Okay.
So, a few more. Actually, all are interrelated. Basically, what I'm trying to tell is NEP like has not understood. I don't say not understood. Maybe not looked into the our traditional education system. For example, if I'm a dancer, if I have to learn a particular style of dance, I need to go to the particular guru in Chennai or in Coimbatore or in Mysore, or if I want to learn Mysore style or somewhere somebody who is expert in that style. So if you are if you say art will be included in your subject and you define a content for that art, that will have not much value because our traditional knowledge learning is a very different way than what you look at it in the modern way. So what I'm trying to sell, so a institution which is running a very specific area of knowledge should be able to be included in our part, should be part of the board, or it should be able to be easily hooked into a student's education career. So there should be a way to, they also become part of the system. That is not visualized, because they will all thinking about defining a content in all the subjects. Okay, let's include art, let's include sport, in that fashion only.